Roses are red, violets are blue, trim your balls, and your date will thank us too. What's up, fellas? Valentine's Day is knocking, and Manscaped is the remedy for what the love doctor ordered. His prescription? The all-new Performance Package 5.0 Ultra, designed to elevate your grooming game and shine like the heartthrob you are. Join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Go to manscaped.com to snag 20% off plus free shipping with our new code SHOW20. So, let's talk about the hero of Valentine's Day, shall we? The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. This electric trimmer features skin-safe technology guarding your V-Day treasure against any grooming mishaps. It also comes with their brightest LED spotlight yet. It's brighter than your best romantic smile. Perfect for precise grooming, even in the trickiest spots. Oh yeah, and it's waterproof as well, so that makes shower shaving an absolute breeze. But you know what? That's not everything the Love Doctor ordered. This package also features the Weed Whacker 2.0 nose hair trimmer, Manscaped's liquid formulations, and 2 free goodies: the Shed Travel Bag and the Boxers 2.0, because comfort is king for all my dogs. And for a happy ending, there's the Manscaped Refined Cologne. It's the Valentine's Day touch to your grooming routine. Elevate your grooming routine and set the stage for a romantically smooth celebration. And for all my bearded kings out there, Manscaped brings you the Beard Hedger Pro Kit, designed to shape your scruff effortlessly. It sculpts cheek lines and maintains beard styles, giving you that suave look for your romantic moments. Seamlessly handling even thicker beards, it's the perfect tool for a polished, date-ready appearance. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code SHOW20. That's SHOW20 at manscaped.com. 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Use the code SHOW20 because your grooming game upgrade awaits, ready to charm your Valentine's dates. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the FM Show. I am, of course, your host, Tony Jameson, and as has been the last couple of weeks, as you'll know, Aaron, of course, is still not with us, unfortunately. Steve is still trying to work out who his broadband provider is, so it's not just me on the microphone and in front of the camera. I am joined by a super special guest host. It's a man you're familiar with if you've been following this show for a while, and if you've been part of our Patreon, then you will absolutely be familiar with this man's work. Welcome, everyone. Second Yellow Card. How are you, pal? Are you well?
I'm terrific. It's interesting how you talk about familiarity there. I think I'm about as familiar to the patrons in the same way that a common cold is familiar to them. You don't want it, but you know about it.
Yeah, I mean, our patrons are immunised against you now. I think
I see.
So the public, hey, get your second yellow card vaccinations in quick.
I am contagious.
It's the review you want on the poster, isn't it? Second yellow card, contagious. So welcome in. Obviously, you've been on the show already in its current form. Obviously, you've been in previous iterations as well, talking about Build a Nation when we were talking about sort of getting into FM24 and coming up with some sort of game styles and gameplay modes. We will, of course, talk about that before as we go through, because we think you're the expert in that field. But before we do that, we'll do a general bit. How's life?
Life is good lately. Like, the whole new year, new me thing gets a bit of a bad rap sometimes, but I find it quite relaxing and quite refreshing, because I'm one of those, I'm sure you're the same probably. Around Christmas, I just sort of gorge myself like a pig at a trough, and then you go back after Christmas and you're like, well, I've gained half a stone. How the earth did that happen? If it isn't the consequences of my own actions.
Yeah.
And so I just sort of use it as a way to get back into running, start dropping some weight again, because I lost loads of weight last year, and then I put a little bit back on around Christmas, and now it's come back down again, which is nice. But it's just nice. I'm trying to get better with my brain health, not just my physical health too, because I feel like people neglect their brains a lot of the time, and it's nice to just take some time to work on your head a little bit and make sure you're feeling all right, because it's great, it's all very well being skinny and healthy, but if your brain's a mess, then it doesn't really matter that much, does it?
Oh, 100%, 100%. And I think those two go very much hand in hand. I was like yourself, as people may or may not know if you've followed me in various social media platforms. I'm quite into my fitness. I quite like going and getting my CrossFit on and doing bits of running and stuff. And with two kids, it's trying to squeeze that in. Probably need to do it a little bit more because in the lead up to Christmas, I started to eat a lot of trifles on stream, and Bailey's became my go-to. And there's a lot of calories in both of those things. So new year, new me. Again, as you say, gets a bit of a bad rap, but I guess it depends upon what the new me looks like. And, at the minute, new me looks pretty solid. By solid, I mean like a mass. There's a solid mass.
Dense.
And I'm not sure that that's the new me I want it to be.
No,
but hey,
light can't pass through me.
Yeah, I didn't get the receipt, so I'm stuck with new me at the minute. So we're gonna try. I'm gonna, like yourself, try and get some of that gone off again. I've gone back to jiu-jitsu as well. It's a midlife crisis and a half.
New you can beat up old you.
Exactly. So we're there, and of course, as you say, get on to the mental health as well, which has been really interesting because I've spoken about this before. Actually, I don't think we've spoken about it in the podcast in this form, really, but. So it was mentioned on Twitter as well this week. So it's a good time to start talking about this. Jenna, the FM spreadsheet queen, as she dubs herself, and she does fantastic content. We'll put loads of links and stuff to her work in the description. She started doing there was a survey that she started to put together with regards to Football Manager and mental health, and using it as a way of improving your mental health. And to be honest, I'm 100% behind that, because when we talk about my stand-up show, there was part of that show was all about using Football Manager to fix me when I was in a difficult place. And I think the more that we talk about things like this, then of course that it puts it into the forefront of people's minds. And I guess stereotypically, the male species tend not to talk about their mental health issues. And I think if this is a way that you can get in there and have a bit of escapism from everything that's happening, then yeah, good on you. Get it fixed.
Yeah, like I think it's important to have a good support system around you. Like the people around you, I think, make it a lot easier. Like I'm very blessed with having Em, because she is the type of person that cares deeply about obviously her own, but also my mental health. And I think she sort of picks up the slack when I don't. So if I'm not focusing on myself and my brain, she'll tell me to. She's the sort of person that will sit up till 2 a.m. just trying to make me feel better. And she's got some witchy methods that she can crack out and makes it work. She'll sit up there, she'll just start subtly being like, do you know what? Do you remember the capital of Cambodia? And I'm just like, yes, I know that. But she knows that I know that. But what she wants me to do is tell her the answer, so she can then ask me another one and take my brain off of what I was doing and get me doing country capitals. And then half an hour later, suddenly I'm feeling a lot better. And yeah, we're all talking about Phnom Penh.
Sneaky. Who'd have thought geography could fix the world?
Should try it sometime. Get some geography out.
I think one thing that the only link I've got there with geography is that is whenever there's a pub quiz and there's flags of the world.
Yes,
in on it. That's my jam right there.
Love me some flags. Read an entire book about them one time.
You wrote an entire book, or you read an entire book?
No, I could write an entire book. It would just be really boring. But no, there's a brilliant book by Tim Marshall about flags, and I would highly recommend it to anyone who loves a bit of. If you're an amateur vexillologist out there, pick it up. You probably already have. Who am I kidding?
I would love to see the Venn diagram of our audience who plays Football Manager, absolutely loves flags.
You'd be surprised. I'm pretty certain it's a circle.
It's the same people. All right. Okay. So speaking of nations and flags, this is seamless right now. How's life in Malta in the virtual world? Of course.
Well, I'm going there next month, so I'll tell you properly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's happening. But no, it's good. It's good. It's been a bit of a rocky start, having to restart the entire save from the start of the second season or whatever. But we fixed that. We ploughed on through and smoothed the ground in front of us. And now it's we're just sort of settling in to the save now. Things are still a bit funky, but that's one of those things that happens. We're expecting the inevitable. There's that bug when you get to about 2031 where all of your player values shoot through the floor, which is always good if you're if you're managing in any small league. That just happens. So that's fine. It's not to do with like custom databases. It just seems to be a game-breaking bug that affects you. If you don't play as Manchester City, this will probably affect you at some point. If you manage it. If you manage off the beaten path, off road, as you might say, then it's going to unfortunately hit you. So your players will suddenly they'll be worth 1/10 of their value, and it's very annoying. But what can you do, I suppose? So we're preparing for that by making some player sales and things like that, and working on a new method for the loan farm and important things on that, especially.
I am just going to make a note of that as I approach the 2029-2030 season.
Yeah, me too.
Did not
just
know
started
about
it yesterday.
Did not know about that.
You're in Greece, aren't you?
Let's put some context on this before we start discussing Greece. Because yes, I am at Larissa, and I'm having a great time. Let's put some meat and bones and some context on this. So, you're doing Build a Nation, which of course is what you're known for in the content creator world. If you're not aware of Second Yellow Card, by the way, he is a content creator. He creates Twitch streams, he creates YouTube videos, he makes amazing stuff. I absolutely love him, right? So you're doing a Build a Nation save. You're doing it over in Malta. So talk to us about the team that you're managing and give us the sort of the sort of the story as to where you're at this point and how you've got to where you are.
Fair enough. So the team that we're managing is a team called Sirens. It's spelt Sirens, but I'm reliably informed by natives that it's pronounced Sirens, so we're going with it. Either that or they've just been pulling the biggest collective joke on me, and they're waiting for me to get there and say it to someone who's local. But either way, we picked them. Well, originally the plan was to manage a team called Nashar, but Twitch wouldn't let us use the word Nashar in chat without blocking it every single time because it thought it was like a censored version of a pejorative. So we couldn't use it. So we had to pick a different team. Chat liked the badge because it had a mermaid with titties on it. So they decided that was the one. So we went with Sirens. And that was basically, that's how we pick teams now, apparently, because we're extremely mature adults. And basically, we're trying to make Malta the best league in Europe. But so far, the journey has gone thusly. We did okay first season. Second season, won the league. No, we didn't win the season. Second season, we got very close to winning the league. Third season, we did in fact win the league, and then lost it again the following season, which is something I've not actually had happen to me before. But our biggest rival, Hamrun, put together one of those seasons where you couldn't do it as a human player. Basically, they overperformed their XG. I think expected points by like plus 19. And I think they only dropped like 6 points in the entire season. So we had what would have won us the title. We basically set the highest number of points without winning the title by like 7 points and still lost the league by 6 points. One of those kind of years.
I mean, those happen though as well. That's a proper FMing, isn't it? Like, I think that's been it was very prevalent. Like, I think it was a couple of years ago. I think that loads of people were saying like you have to basically break history every single year to win the title, and like, so that's really interesting that you managed to get there. So okay, so you've managed to win the title, then you've lost the title. That's really, really interesting, because where we are. So, and we're going to bounce a little bit of comparison here because we're of course doing Build a Nation in Greece. At Larissa, we're about the same point in now. We've just finished season 6. So I think the last update I gave to the show was we did season 5, and we were in a position where like, the league splits in 2 at the end of the season in Greece. Okay, there's like the top 6 go into what's called the championship group, and there's 5 places for Europe. So one, of course, misses out. And then the 7 to 14 is the relegation group, which is really harsh because the bottom 2 teams are nearly always relegated before the split, and the rest of it is just going exhibition matches, really. So we, the last 2 years we were in the top division, we've smashed those relegation group games, finished top, like, and just beaten everybody, and it's been like good for morale, really, but not so good for the sort of the confidence of yourself and your self-esteem. So we rebuilt in the summer, and what we did was we pushed in to season 6, started pretty well. We brought in a striker, Portuguese striker called Pedro Mendes, not that one that used to play for Portsmouth. A different one played for Lisbon, I believe. And he scored 23 goals in 31 games. So that will do. Didn't pay any money for him because we don't pay money for players. We paid 50 grand over 6 years, and we've made 31 million pounds back. So that's pretty much how we're working it. Yeah, we're not spending money. We're doing it the cheap way. We did lose a player called Will Dixon, who's a Man City player. We got him on a free. He did great for 2 seasons, but he left in January. Brighton came in for him. We were flying at this point. We were 4th in the league. Okay, coming into January transfer window, and I was like, right, I'm prepping. I know what positions I want to sort of like recruit for, and I'm like, this is going to be fine. Lovely. Transfer window opens up in January. First message, the board have accepted a £6.75 million bid from Brighton. I'm like, what? We didn't even know that Brighton were interested. Like, we had no idea that anybody was remotely interested in Will Dixon. But of course, the board accepted it, and we're like, okay, cool. Like, because we're like yourself, you just the board accept it. You've just got to sell players. That's how you is. You can't get attached. But we weren't expecting to have to bring in a new winger, so we spent January bringing in 2 wingers who. One's adapted very well. Thankfully, the guy who plays on the right, which is where Will Dixon plays, the left winger's a bit iffy. We managed to get into the championship group for the first time, and we're like, okay, this is huge. We beat Olympiacos on the last day of the season to get us in. That was one of those like monumental moments of the save. Like, we finally beaten one of the big teams, and we get into the championship group, and Pedro Mendes is injured for 8 weeks. There's 8 games to play in that group. And I'm like, damn you, FM. And of course, we only have 1 striker, because why would we think to have a second? So we were in a position where we could have really challenged for 3rd, but we were that far ahead of 5th and that far behind 3rd that 4th was pretty much, again, exhibition games, really. So we finished 4th, which was amazing. So we're in the Euro League qualifiers now. Super excited. Can't believe that. I'm genuinely like getting ready to start plotting my first European adventure with the Crimson Horses. And I mean, if it lasts 1 game, great. If it lasts 2 games, brilliant. But I'm into that thing now where I think we've arrived.
It's, you sort of feel like when you've made it to a certain stage, you're like, now we're getting started. Everything else kind of feels like the opening credits of a movie. And then you hit a certain point in the save and you're like, main character's had his first line of dialogue. Now we're cooking.
Yeah, like, I recognize him. He's going to be important.
Yeah. It no longer says Columbia Pictures across the screen.
Yeah, like, because I'm at the interesting thing as well, because of the fact we've had to come up from Division 2. We've obviously won the title in Division 2, but that took us 3 seasons. It's now taken us 3 seasons to get into Europe, and trying to keep engagement and belief with the stream chat that, hey, I know we've not won anything, but it's going to be fine. Like, there was part of me thinking, like, how much longer can I string this one out for without winning anything or without getting into the European picture? And we had a couple of moments that were a little bit questionable in the fact that, not as in like getting sacked or anything. It was quite the opposite. We had some opportunities that I wasn't planning on, because I think when we spoke before, you like the idea of doing this as a one club. Yeah?
Yeah.
Like, you want to take your team ideally from wherever you take them, and you want that club to be the one that sits at the top of the table. Now, we got offered an interview with I'm going to pronounce it badly, so apologies for any Greek listeners. And it's Astoris Tripolis, who were coming in. They wanted to have me as their manager, and I was like, no, I'm not really convinced. They've got 2 really, really good players, but I was like, nah, there's not enough. I'm fine for that. So I kind of like went proper arrogant on the interview, like, hey, of course you want me. I'm amazing. Like, kicking like bits of furniture, like turning down the photographs of the chairman's partner and kids and that as the interview.
You're not going to need this where we're going.
Yeah, like, like when David Brent does that interview and he puts his shoes up on the table and it's like, Jameson mused. And it was one of those sorts of...
Jameson mused.
So that interview didn't go well. They didn't offer us the job, which is great. But then PAOK Salonika offered us an interview. Now, the issue we've got here, okay, in the top 4 of Greece, you've got AEK, Olympiacos, PAOK, and Panathinaikos. That's 4 teams. There's 5 teams that get into Europe. Why couldn't that be us to be in the Europe? And then we can help build that nation and make everyone brilliant. Plus, PAOK and Larissa are pretty heated enemies as well.
You'd be run out of town.
And I was saying to my chat, going like, this was the end of season 5, before season 6. I was like, look, we know that we've missed out on Europe twice. We're not expected to be in Europe at this point, but we've missed out. We owe it to ourselves for one more roll of the dice to get to Europe. And thankfully, that's paid off, but that could have backfired horrendously on me. It's like, went really badly. But that's a question then. Like, has there been a moment during any of your saves where you've been in that situation and you are doing that build the nation, thinking, well, do I step up? Will that help the thing and like maybe leave the smaller team behind and not necessarily fast track it, but Is that the right way, the wrong way? Who knows?
It's never something that's occurred to me of that particular thing. And within a building a nation save, it's never occurred to me, just because I know that it would affect the save negatively. Because if I take over a big side, all I've done is take over a side that's already big and make them bigger, which means that I've just lost the opportunity to have them help me in Europe with the team I was already managing. So say I, in Malta, took over Hamrun instead, great, that's easily the second biggest side, but then Sirens would just fall off easily, and then it'd just be me again with a massive team that's already massive, and everyone else being like, hi, it's not going to work for me.
That was my concern, because I was saying, like, look, if we go to PAUK, then what's going to happen is the AI aren't going to manage Larissa the way that we've done it. They're not going to recruit the way that we've done it, which is get a whole load of free transfers in and sell them off and just keep the club afloat. So Larissa are going to be back in League Two before we even know it. So, like, I was very much a case of, no, we're staying. Until Larissa tell us we're leaving, we're staying.
Yeah. I think sometimes you got to stick to your guns. It's an example that's sort of on similar lines, even though it's not to do with leaving the club. It's to do with sticking to your principles and your guns, I suppose, when chat is telling you otherwise. So literally, this was yesterday. We have a couple of players who've got relatively overblown values, I would say, purely because one of them, they have international caps. One of them has caps for Egypt now as of this summer. And as a result, his reputation has shot through the sky. And because we were playing in the Champions League at the time, even if it was only qualifiers, and had been in the Europa League groups a couple of times, he had extremely large value. But at the time, even though our players had rather large value, you'd be lucky if you got a third of the lowest end of the value actually bid on, because the clubs that would want them, generally speaking, can't afford that kind of money, and the clubs that can don't want them. So it's in a nice position where the values are sort of irrelevant, really. We just pay what we got. And then yesterday, somehow, LA Galaxy, because you're thinking, oh, it'll be a Saudi club. That's where all the money is. Randomly, LA Galaxy said, hey, how's it going, lads? How about we pay you £15 million for your midfielder? And we went, excuse me, are you drunk? Because
he's already on the plane. He's on the plane already.
Well, this is the thing. I immediately said to chat, I'm not doing it. He's our star midfielder. He actually didn't have international caps at the time, but probably will. Oh. So it's like a 4-star CA, 4-star PA guy in the midfield. He's got 18 passing, 16 vision, and he's had that from the age of 17. He's insanely good, and he's only getting better, and he's basically the entire linchpin of our midfield. And I said to chat, no, we don't need the cash right now, because if we get £15 million in, great, we can't spend it on anyone, because no one that's worth that amount of money or even close to that is going to talk to us, and we can't replace him because anyone that would fill those shoes won't talk to us. We'd have to build someone from scratch again, and it would set the save back. So I said, he's an important part of the team. We don't need it. And so it's as if LA Galaxy heard me. And then 2 weeks later, they said, hey, you see that other midfielder you've got there? How about we give you £15 million for him instead? And this time, it was a kind of player that we went, you know what? Probably okay, because he was a player we'd had out on loan at an Egyptian club last year because he'd complained because we were playing the wrong system and he didn't like it. Now we had got a new system that suited him, but we had 2 more defensive midfielders waiting in the wings to take over his spot. So yeah, LA Galaxy on my save have a tycoon, and we checked, they have a tycoon and they're spending money like a Saudi club. It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. A tycoon in the MLS doesn't even make any sense, but there you go.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah. Like a tycoon in the MLS makes zero sense.
The worst place to have a tycoon ever. They've got a salary cap, so they're just spending all of their money on transfer fees. It's the most batshit thing I've seen in ages.
Yeah, right. I can only sign 2 players a year, so I'm going to Malta.
Exactly. It's the wildest thing. They could have got such better value in, like, I don't know, anywhere, basically. There were other players at other Maltese clubs that they could. We had players that they could have had that were probably better than him that were worth like £2 million, but they're no, we'll give you 15 million quid for Mohammed El Shazli. There you go.
But and you're right. I mean, that's the considerations at that point when you're in these sorts of saves. Like I started my point by going, look, the second someone bids, they're out the door. Like I can't get attached to them at this point. Like Dixon was one of those guys. I didn't even have a say in the matter. He was already gone. Like we had another player we signed, a Nigerian centre back called Nwanko, who was like 18 and looked ridiculous. Like we bought him on a bit of a guess, to be honest. Like we had the sort of a very basic scout report of this guy might be okay, and we could see like 1 or 2 attributes or something. And I was like, let's just go for him. He's going to be free. And if he's great, brilliant. If he's not, then we'll just bin him off. And he was great. He was so great. Like we ended up selling him to Liverpool again for about 7 million quid, I think it was 6.5 million quid. But We've got international cap money on there. We've got like league appearance money on there. 40% of any profit on there as well. And when we sold him and loaned him straight back, his value shot up to 75 million quid. And we were like going, oh, we think we've just built Greece. Just like,
yeah, because they may never actually sell him, but it doesn't matter because the best part is they'll try to buy that clause off of you. Yeah. And you get probably double what they paid for you. It's
exactly
brilliant. Those 50% of next sale fee clauses, if you can get them in there, are gold dust. Because I always tell chats, like, you don't need them to sell them. You need them to buy the clause off of you. You got to wait for the right moment. But sometimes they will pay you like double the value of the transfer just to not have that clause in the contract. It's great.
Absolutely. And if anyone's listening going, what are you on about? So basically what you do, right, is when you've got on your the side on your transfer the transfer part of the screen, if you click on that, there's a section just above it that says clauses. Okay. Go into clauses, and that's where you'll spot all of the clauses that are in every single player that's been agreed as part of a transfer. Now, it might be players that you've agreed to transfer for. If you're starting a save, it might be clauses that are already in. So you might not know that you start a save and you realize, oh God, I'm actually going to spend another £1 million on a player if he plays so many games. You don't maybe know this, or you are going to lose some money, because that always comes as a surprise when you sell them and you go, why are we paying 20% to his former club? Oh, because I didn't check. That's why. Yeah.
Was his dad getting £1 billion?
We did have a training ground, but not now. Turns out it's been moved.
He's building a car park on it.
What a save that is. The build a car park save.
With
ANPR Skylines. It's the crossover no one knew they wanted, but there it is.
I'd play that so bad.
I would as well, actually. I would as well. And if Miles is listening, I'm sorry, I do want to build a stadium. I really do.
Yeah, and I want to build it with my manager's wages, damn it.
Mm-hmm. And I want to be able to work out the route that you can get there so that the traffic's going to be fine. I want local transport sorted as well, so it can be sustainable and it'll be lovely. We'll have a recycling depot, and I also want to work out exactly where the plumbing and the electricity is. But apart from that, you know what I mean?
Police horses.
Yeah, and I don't care about training. Take that out. No, take that out. Put town planning in.
Take your squad planner out. I want town planner.
Yeah, Miles, is there any way for us to have a merchandise manager where I can go and restock the club shop? We're out of pen toppers. Just signed 3 new key rings over the boot of this.
It's just that one screen you get at the end of the season with the merchandising bit, but that's the entire game.
Yeah, and I'm sat there just going, I've done it.
Look how many scarves I've sold, Mum.
Yeah, 50-50 scarves. That's what I've done. Half and half scarves.
Oh, no.
Through the roof. It just says at the bottom, you've increased football tourism by 85%. What was I even talking about? I'd forgotten a bit. Oh, yeah, the clause bit, right. Remember, because you can sell those clauses off for profit, you know, because it's free money in this sense, isn't it? You know, you're working on the hypotheticals at this point.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I usually try to get it used to be more powerful, I feel like, on FM22 and older, where you could get pretty much a 50% of next sale fee clause into any sale. You'd have to take a little bit off the transfer fee, but who cares? If you're selling a guy, if you're a smaller club especially, and someone like Inter is offering you £10 million for your player, send them as Winter. They'll be worth £40 million the moment they join. And then Inter will go, oh, Christ, if we sell this guy, we owe him 50% of the transfer fee. They sell him for 40 million. You're getting 20 million out of that. So often they'll come in and be like, hey, what if we give you 15 million and then you piss off for a bit? And it's great because then all of a sudden your £10 million transfer is now 25 million. You're rolling in the money. It's brilliant.
Hello, everyone. Just a very quick one while this episode's on to talk to you about Patreon. Now, say, for example, you're listening or watching this show and thinking, hey, I could do with an extra little bit more FM show in my life. Well, good news for you, my friends, because from as little as £3 a month, you can support the podcast via Patreon. And in return, we will give you an extra exclusive episode every single Monday. That's right, an extra exclusive episode every single Monday via Patreon. It might be a FM chat, it might be me talking to someone else in the FM space, maybe a larger, wider community, who knows. Plus, you're also going to get early access to the weekly free public episodes, and there will always be a free weekly public episode, by the way, so don't worry about that. If you can't afford to support via Patreon, there will always be free content. And if you can't afford to support Patreon, then please do consider subscribing to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, wherever you get your podcast from. Like the video if you're enjoying it, leave some comments on YouTube, follow us on all the social media, come and join the Discord, come and hang out with us over there. Join the community, be part of what we're trying to grow here, because obviously the more we interact with you, the more we can start to really focus the content on what it is you actually want us to start producing. So if you're interested in some bonus stuff, come and visit us, patreon.com/the FM Show Pod, or alternatively, or at the very least, consider subscribing to all the channels and all the social medias. Drop us a like, leave us a comment. Back to the episode. Exactly, and you keep turning that wheel. That's how you make the clubs exist. So that's where we are at the minute. So we've got a load of like sort of good sell-ons, which is going to be really handy for us when it comes to sort of progressing the club. But I am in this situation now, though, Matt, where I've done well on free transfers, and my hand is twitching over a mouse. We're not getting a lot of these money, by the way, when we sell players. Our current transfer kitty is 685 grand for our first stint into Europe. Not brilliant, right?
I got more than that.
Our overall wage budget compared to other teams in the league, Olympiacos, of course, are spending the most money. They have Callum Hudson-Odoi in their team. 3 Callum Hudson-Odois is our entire squad's wage budget.
So how much is your wage budget?
Like 195 grand or something.
Wow, I've just realised how small my wage budget is. Like, mine's 58 grand at the moment, but then obviously it's different levels, isn't it? Malta and Greece are not on the same level. I think my highest paid player is on 3.3k.
We started off on about 40 grand, and my top earner now is 14 grand, I think. And even then, I'm twitching a little bit going, he better win a World Cup at like 14 grand.
Unless he's got a World Cup winners clause, and then you're screwed.
Exactly. I'll sell that.
Get another car park.
Yeah. Unless we host the World Cup. In that case, we get that money back.
There you go.
Also really friendly with Argentina somehow. But yeah, like we've got, like we're slowly moving up, but the disparity between ourselves and AEK and Olympiacos is just like, it's just so vast, so vast, and I quite like it though, because it makes us the underdogs, and I like that.
It's nice to have something big to punch up against, rather than being. It's nice to be David with your little slingshot, rather than the Goliath whacking your club around the entire time. Although that can be very fun too, I must admit. It is nice to just go out there and absolutely spank someone 9-0 every now and then, just for a little treat, so to speak.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, because I think I think this is the interesting transfer window, where expectations will, of course, be try and get back into Europe again next season. I'm at that point now. I've got to try and solidify my position as 4th or maybe 5th. So all of my signings have now got to be absolutely spot on. But I think it's more about squad depth this year, because if I hadn't have lost my striker, maybe we'd have finished 3rd. If I hadn't have lost Will Dixon, maybe we'd have finished 3rd. But it's all ifs, buts, and maybes. We don't know. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, McKinn's was on the show telling us that tactics don't really matter. So it's all predetermined. That caused a right rumble, by the way, online.
He wasn't wearing a tin hat while he did it, was he?
He strapped himself in for that one, didn't he? I'll tell you what doesn't make a difference. And I was like, oh, he's going for it.
Did he tell you that if the ball just keeps rolling, eventually it will fall off the edge of the earth?
Yeah. He says that, like, if you shoot against the away end, you're guaranteed to not get a penalty. But if you do shoot in front of the home end, you will get a penalty. And I was like, it was like fmconspiracytheories.com. It was brilliant.
Those bloody burger vans, I knew it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they know too much. They're recording everything. What would you like? Would you like some corruption with those fries? Yes, please, sir. Thank you very much.
Having secret meetings, those burger vans. That's why they're all huddled in the corner together.
It's
like Bohemian Grove over there.
Bohemian Grove. Just a small community centre just outside of Boheme.
So the burger man's worshipping a giant owl.
I mean, I would love the fact that there's some people who will listen to this going, that's a cracking Biker Grove reference, well done. And then other people going, what on earth are they on about?
Oh, that wasn't a Biker Grove reference.
Oh, sorry, mine was.
It's perfect. It's references that have met in the middle and shooken hands.
Venn diagrams again.
Yeah, there you go again.
Here we go. Yeah. Who loves Football Manager and Biker Grove? Some people, apparently. It's It's a smaller circle than the flags one. That's for certain.
It's like a little snowman.
it's like a slither, is what it is. Yeah. Like ham on its side.
Of all the 2D objects, you went ham.
I'm holding a pen, and I was like, ham.
Yeah.
Other products, of course, are available.
Have a pen and cheese sandwich layer.
Yeah. So we're in the really, really important transfer window where we've got to try and recruit properly. Now, is that the big one? Is that the big one, or do you think there's a bigger transfer window?
I think. That's an interesting question. Actually, I feel like the most important for me, the most important transfer window is every transfer window. I've got to get that out of the way. You've got to toe the party line for a minute there. But like, I think there are certain transfer windows that are more important than others. They're all equal, but some are more important. When you get that first European season, it's important because you know you've already done your Greek football. You know how many cup competitions, how many league fixtures, and then all of a sudden, bam, you've got Europe. Now, that might just be a couple of qualifying games, and then you inevitably come up against Leicester City or something who've got through the conference leagues some miraculous way, as often seems to be the case. And then you're, back home before you can say Larissa. But what if you don't? What if you're in the conference league group? Oh, good. Now we've got 6 more matches that we've got to play. Our fixtures are congested like crazy. We've got players complaining because we couldn't register them for European competitions because we haven't thought about that in advance.
Yeah.
And then it's all a bit of a mess. And that's exactly what happened to us. And so I feel like you need to be, as you say, focusing on squad depth, because you need to basically have guys that aren't going to care that they're not in the team for the European matches, but they're going to play some league games, particularly against the weaker sides, because you need your star striker to be having decent OPC to go into those matches against the big European teams or whoever you're playing against. And I think that's why it's really important to build squad depth there, as well as, if you find the occasional absolute monster bargain. So I got insanely lucky by doing the amateur scouting that I do. We'd like just taking blind punts on players because they're free. They're on amateur contracts. Most of them want pretty low wages. Worst case scenario, it's a short-term deal and I can send them to another Maltese club anyway. Now, with the new method that we found, I could just give them to them. It's brilliant. And then we signed this guy called Julian Palacio, and he might be the greatest free transfer I've ever seen. He joined us and we thought, no. He should be signing for Paris Saint-Germain, not a Maltese side. It is wild. He's unbelievable. He's like 4-star CA in our squad at 7, or he was 17. And now maybe he's not going to grow much more. I don't know. But the game still says he's got 5-star potential from where he currently is. And his attributes just keep going up and up and up. So maybe I've actually signed a wonder kid in Malta. I don't know. That remains to be seen. It hasn't called him that yet. But sometimes you just get lucky as well. And I think that's the first European one is important, and then the first Champions League one is important when you're actually in the group stage. The season after that, when you've suddenly got moon money because of your 15 million quid that you get for being in it, plus gate receipts, all that jazz, that's when you've got to make real decisions, because at that point when you're building a nation, your decision making is, okay, cool, I'm in the Champions League, I'm getting loads of money, but I'm getting no coefficient points for my nation whatsoever because I'm getting hammered every week here. Yeah. I need to find a way to either not qualify for the Champions League, but not on purpose, obviously, or build a squad good that I'm actually going to start getting points. And it's that when that transition phase over into being a Champions League consistent team, that's when you've got to take real steps to try to really invest in your squad, because otherwise the points are just going to evaporate over the next few years because the other team's probably not quite at the stage where they're actually pulling their weight just yet. And you need to get as good as fast as you can, otherwise they're going to get left behind.
Yeah, I think then that's clearly where we are now, because I need to make sure that we're comfortable. Again, that's in my head, that's already what I've got going. Right, we need to get into the top 6 again. That's got to be number 1 target. Presume we're playing 2 games in Europe, that's all. But again, prepare for the fact that we might not. Maybe we get a really lucky draw. Maybe we play above our abilities and we start smashing teams. We just don't know. So we need to make sure we've at least got a second striker, at the very least, next season.
Particularly if you're playing 2 strikers.
Yeah. Thankfully, we're not. But hey, you never know. I mean, I've done that sort of tactical stuff before. Going, we're going to play with 3 up front with my no strikers. That's going to be interesting. We need to obviously make sure as well we read the rules, because now we're into international matches. Maybe you need to have homegrown players. I should check that because we've got quite a lot of foreign players. But thankfully, I am the Greece under-21 manager, so I'm using that as incredibly free scouting too. And
we're a brilliant idea. Under-21 manager too. You're not even you're staying under the radar. You're just there in the background, lurking with your big book.
Even better, we started as Greece under-19 manager.
You're working your way up.
Yeah, we had 4 games at Greece under-19s. We beat Iceland 8-0. We beat Italy under-19s 1-0. We beat Belgium 3-2. And we beat someone else. Like, I want to say like Finland or something. Oh, yeah, Finland maybe. 2-0 or something. Like, so we did really well in those 4 matches. Then the under-21 manager job became available. And I was like, should we just apply for that as well? And like, we'll just move on, because why not? It's probably a bit more kudos. And Gus Poyet is still in charge of the Greek national team. He was like, yeah, come and do the under-21s. And we've lost all 4 games in the under-21s, but it's not the point. We've scouted all these players now, and we're going like, hey, I'm the under-21s guy. Do you want to come and play at the team that I manage as well?
I'll get you in the national team. I know Gus personally. I was there when he was sacked on TV.
Exactly. So when he gets the elbow out of the national team, guess who's going to give you your first international cap? Yeah?
It's your boy.
Exactly. What's the Greek word for nepotism? So genuinely, any comments below, let us know, because I'm going to need to know it at some point.
Before that's just a Greek word.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it might be.
Possibly. So what's the French word for baguette? Don't know.
It's a long bread.
Le Grand Loaf.
Le Grand Loaf, yeah.
So that's where we are with that. So I need to obviously get some bodies in there and build that squad up, because, as you say, you don't want to drop out to 7th again next season and be like, all right, we've fallen. Can we go again? Essentially, which is obviously where we're at now. You mentioned before this whole values plummeting thing. That scares me a little bit. Okay, because
with Greece,
I think I might be okay. Again, we're flying under the radar in like nations where players aren't really valued anyway. We're not using a custom database. You are. We're not doing a loan farm. You are. Now,
well, that's the big change. I'm starting to lean away from the loan farm now.
Okay. So again, right. So let's explain what the loan farm is to those who maybe don't know what the loan farm is, and explain how you use it, and now how you may be steering away from this.
So the loan farm was sort of an idea that came about almost by accident, where we kind of just realized that it was always going to be difficult to strengthen the other teams around us, particularly with the way that AI squad building is somewhat inconsistent. It's better this year, but it was particularly appalling. Basically, they would just sign 30-year-old players who were on massive wages and had no development curve or whatever. But we noticed that if we brought in some young players that we weren't going to use yet, but we wanted to develop them, we could loan them to other players in our league, other teams in our league, I should say. And they would be young enough to be homegrown for them in a few years with Europe if they stayed there as well. And we noticed that we could just keep renewing these contracts, renewing the loan contracts every single year. And they would just keep accepting it to the point where we'd have guys out on loan for 10, 12 years. And they would become club legends. They would develop into the full player that they were going to be, but they do it at the other club, which means they were getting the full benefit of that player. And after a while, you kind of realize that those guys were not good enough for us, but they're doing absolute wonders for these teams and massively improving them and driving them through the ranks. There's no rules to the number of loans. Well, there are in certain leagues, but we tend to choose leagues where that doesn't apply. And after a while, we had 177 loans out last season at one point, and we had guys out on loan that were like 4-star CA. They were good enough to be our starting players, but because we had so many players anyway that were filling those roles, they would have just been more squad fodder that would have just been rotated around. They would have complained. Instead, they're out on loan at these other clubs doing absolute, like going to the knockouts of the Champions League with these Hungarian sides. And it was brilliant. And that was where we built a lot. That's how we got Hungary up to number 2, basically, was just doing that by having clubs like Haladash be insane with a team of like, I don't know, they had maybe like 8 or 9 loans, but then because the squad got better, they then were able to sign better players because those guys were joining because the squad was better. So it kind of, it branched out everything. And then they would take better loans because they had better loans. It's sort of a snowball effect. But this year in Malta, we noticed that because obviously Malta's average CA of players is much, much lower than Hungary. It's probably more like the 40 to 60 range, whereas Hungary's sort of the mid 100s, not mid, like around the 100 mark. Once we started getting quite good, the gap between our players and the other players, clubs in our league, was so drastic that the clubs weren't going to approach us for loans because they didn't think the player would want to talk to them and the player didn't want to talk to them. So even when we were buying in players specifically for the loan farm, they weren't joining it. And we were like, crap, how are we going to build this nation? Because that's a lot of the linchpin of it. You can't rely on doing it yourself. Now, some of the changes we put in place in the Maltese database with the improvements to television revenue and sponsorship and general dynamic scaling that should improve as the reputation of the league improves, that will help with that, because the clubs will get more money than they would have done were we not doing it. So the idea is that when Malta is, say, a top 10 nation, in terms of the coefficients, they'll actually be getting TV revenue and sponsorship that is equivalent to what you would get if you were a top 10 nation. Maybe slightly lower than that for a bit of added realism, because you weren't going to get that in Hungary. In Hungary, once clubs in our league, we were like number 2 in the coefficient charts. We're above Spain, Italy, Germany, and they're still getting paid like £400,000 a year in sponsorship. It's like, what? They're in the knockouts of the Champions League. How is that happening? Because the game doesn't scale, but now it does. So hopefully that will help. But we discussed, I say we, my good friend and mod Hadrian discovered, so once again, shout out Hadrian, discovered a way that, because something people always used to say, they'd come in and be like, why don't you just give players to other clubs for free? And I'm like, I tried. They don't do anything. You could offer them out for free to other clubs in our league, and they just don't apply to it. They say, we don't want them. Now, often that's possibly because of wages. But now, this year, that seems to work. So what we started doing yesterday is just signing cheap and free, mostly free players on really cheap contracts that look like they might have a little bit of potential and maybe a little bit of CA. Maybe not great for us, maybe 2-star in our squad, maybe even a bit lower. But for the others, that's a 4-star player.
Yeah.
And then we can just offer them out the moment they join you for free to other teams in our league, and they just bite on them like fish to fish food. It's incredible. I think we brought in maybe 30 guys yesterday and got like 30 guys straight out to other Maltese sides, including a guy that was like 3-star CA in our team. And the other thing that happened is there was a load of like trialees. Well, they were they were free agents from Brazil that I was bringing in the same set. I brought them to the country to try them out so I could have a little look, save myself some scouting time. And before I'd even had a chance to offer these guys contracts, other Maltese sides were just biting at them like piranhas. So we've just flooded the league with these talents. And now, because they've got better squads, they take better loans from us again. It's brilliant. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
I've seen that. And I don't know whether it's because I've only got one playable nation in the game. But I'm seeing more things where those clubs that are in my nation are now interested in similar sorts of players that I'm interested in. And I'm like, well, there's no way you'd be interested in this, but it's good that you are, because that means that you will hopefully attract this player. If he's not good enough for me, he might be good enough for you. Because in Greece, I think there is still that limit on loans that you can't flood out 170 or whatever.
Yeah.
So my thinking was going to be not necessarily overinflate prices in the long term, because at the minute I'm paying nothing. But I was sort of thinking that we could buy at least for market value, maybe plus a little bit. A lot of incentives in there as well to keep sort of building the coffers up with the opposition teams, and then for us just basically accepting whatever comes in, really, and not haggling over the prices and be like, oh, he's worth 20 million, they've offered 9, they've offered like 11 million, go, fine, whatever. And if the board accept it, then fine, do that.
That's the thing. As long as the board accepts it, you're fine. Sometimes that Hammering bid like 200k for one of my players, and I was like, see if I can give it to them for 25 and see if the board will let this one slide. And because we'd paid nothing for the player, they were fine with it. So they got a 200k player for basically free. It's brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing, because you can't then sort of like do it, as you say, and like literally like sort of go, right, yeah, he's worth 20 million, we'll sell him for $500,000. The board are going to be like, no, that's not how you do it.
What are you doing?
Yeah. So that's my plan. I don't know whether it's going to work, but that's my plan going forward. So we'll of course check back in as the save progresses, and we'll see sort of like how that transpires in the future. One thing we did want to talk about, and it's probably pertinent today, at the time of recording. It was a subject that we've wanted to speak about for a little while actually on the show. We never quite got round to it, but now it sort of makes sense, because at the time of recording, Liverpool are going to be starting to look for a new manager in the real world, because Jurgen Klopp's decided he doesn't want to get up early on a Saturday morning anymore, and they're going to start looking for a new manager. Now, I started to think about this. He's been there for a while. And I thought, well, you know what? There's always a moment, isn't it? In a long-term save when you go, have I taken the club as far as I can go? When is enough enough? Do you know when it's time?
Yeah, there's like, I think it's difficult with the building a nation save because you've got such a lofty goal. So there's rarely ever moments where I felt like enough is enough, because you always want more. Unless I had number one, which I've never had. So maybe then I'd be like, you know what? Yeah, that's my goal. I'm out. But I did finish the building a nation save earlier than I perhaps should have done when I was doing Tromsø. And I think it was because I felt that I'd taken them as far as I could go. I didn't think we could get much further than fourth because there was such a huge coefficient gap. And I kind of just felt like it was sort of like, I felt a bit like Sisyphus. I was just pushing a stone up a hill and it was just rolling straight back down again. And there was really no growth happening anymore. It kind of just stagnated. And I felt it was the right time to move on, because from a content creator's perspective, I guess it's slightly different. I was worried that people might start to get a bit bored of it. And I guess in that way, I was sort of mimicking that because I think I was starting to get a little bit bored of it because I didn't see the potential that turns out you actually can go a lot higher than that if you just push on for a few more seasons. But what was I to know? And I think from a sort of offline save perspective, because I really struggle with any kind of offline save to play for any kind of consistency because I get bored so easily when I'm not making active content around it. I think it's that kind of engagement keeps me engaged. But when I was on my little break from YouTube, I played a save in Luxembourg for a little bit with a team called Etzella Ettelbruck. And that was really, really fun. And that's the most fun I had playing FM when I wasn't making content. But after a while, I think I'd sold a few players to some big nations. I'd won the Luxembourg League a few times, qualified for the Champions League. And then I kind of just felt like, am I really going to put another 10 seasons into this save to try to win the Champions League with them? Do I care that much? And I guess it's not always like giving up the save. Sometimes it's just moving clubs. Like in this one, I did just give up the save because again, I'm flaky like that, but not everyone is. And I think it's about balancing enjoyment, isn't it? Right? If it's a game and it's supposed to be fun. So if you're enjoying yourself, you're playing it correctly. But if you're not, then you need to find a way to enjoy yourself. And even if you've done, like, it's your hometown club, you've been managing for 15 years, you've won everything there is to win, and you're kind of just like, I love this team, but wouldn't it be cool if this job's come up over here? That's kind of interesting. Or wouldn't it be cool if I went back down the leagues again and picked a club really, really low and started from scratch in the same database sometimes, starting the same year, just picking up where you left off. I've done that from save to save before. I did a save on YouTube a couple of years ago where I tried to win the Champions League with a team that had never been in a final, but as a journeyman starting from the very beginning, building my way up. And after that, I was like, right, I want to do this little mini save, but I want to do it in an existing game world. So I just picked it up from the exact save point where I was before with the old save and just started saving teams from relegation, which is possibly an idea if people are a little bit stuck for an idea. Just keep putting yourself in charge of clubs who are in need of a relegation save. It's really fun. 6-month challenges, one after the other. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I think I remember speaking to you about that before, and I was just like, because that again, like I love these long-term saves, but I'm not one that chases glory. Like I'm give me a relegation battle. That's what I like. I'm all over that. Like I think I'm in that sort of situation, trying to look at it now, and I remember, that there's been times that there's been moments in long-term saves where I've looked and thought, have I taken the club as far as I can go? Do you then look around? What's your options? Like, it's difficult, isn't it? Because you will always have, and I had a little bit as part of my British Steel Challenge last year, when we were at Crystal Palace, and we had a great team at Crystal Palace. Like, genuinely one of the most exciting teams I've seen in any save that I've played in Football Manager in a long time. And we were only there for 2 years, right? But we struck gold in the transfer market. Like in 2 years? 3 years, maybe. 3 years. We got them up out of the Championship and we got them into the Premier League. We did what most people in that situation will do in order to get a team up into the Championship, hit Scandinavia. Cheap players. Scandinavia's got some great players. We managed to get some incredible players. We brought a player in called Damjanovic, who came in from like Malmo. I think he cost £2 million, and by the time we left, he was sold for 50 million quid. And we brought a player called Anders Maxo, who came in from Copenhagen. He was a fullback. He went off to play for Paris Saint-Germain. We brought him in on a free. And he then left. Drink problem as well, that we kept being out on getting caught in nightclubs. I
love it when you get a player like that.
I was like, oh, buddy performs. Like, maybe
I had a player just like
that fire.
And do you know what I did with him? Sold him to Paris Saint-Germain. Genuinely. That's exactly. It's fine. There's loads of bars in Paris.
Yeah. It's not frowned upon over there. No. We brought a player in called Aquino, who was a Uruguayan. He was 19 years old when we signed him. Paid £2.1 million for him. And on his debut, as a substitute, his first touch was a corner, which was an assist to a goal. His second highlight was him scoring a free kick. And his third highlight was him crossing the ball in the far post to be nodded in. He'd been on the pitch 30 minutes and he had 2 assists and a goal. I was like, he's going to be fine. He ends up going to Chelsea and he's one of the top 50 players in the world. Like, all these players just ended up being in there. And we knew we had to leave because the whole point of the save was to move on and try and win trophies. But, oh my word, if I'd have had a couple more seasons with that Crystal Palace team, the fun I could have had, it would have taken us 10 years to get to the top. But we knew that at the end of that season, the Vultures were just going to come and take everyone from us. So we were like, hello, Celtic. Yeah, we'll come up. Don't worry.
Yeah. Because also, like, yeah, you sell those guys, you've got 150 million in your transfer budget now, but it's like, I want them back. I don't want money.
But as you said before, who's going to come? It's £100 million. Can you build an entire new squad again with players who are £2 million?
And even if you do, it doesn't feel the same. It's like that really nice pair of trousers you've got. It's perfectly fitted. It's great. And then one day it gets thrown away. You don't know who's done it. It doesn't matter. But you get a new pair. It's the same exact pair from the same shop, same size, everything. You put them on, wash them. It just doesn't feel the same. There's something wrong. The stitching's not quite right. That to me is what it's like trying to manage that squad when the magic has gone out. It's like a dead marriage, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And you do stay together for the Wonder Kids, you know, but you could see that joke charging in the distance.
Oh, it was great. It's like standing on a level crossing with a train barreling at you. There's nothing you can do. You just got to let it hit you. I braced myself for it and it came.
Yeah. The joke replacement service will be around shortly in case you missed that one.
In 20 to 35 minutes.
But yeah, like, you know, you're right. It's not going to be the same, is it? It's not going to be the same. But conversely, of course, as well, like you leave these teams when you've been there for maybe feeling like it's too long. What about when you go into the job and you're replacing that, for want of a better word, I suppose, legacy manager, where they've been there for a long time? Real life football clubs, of course, littered with those. I mean, there's pressure there as well, isn't it? You're going in with an incredibly tight-knit squad and you're going, hello, everyone, I'm your new manager. You're leaving. You seem important. You're leaving.
You're looking at me funny. Why is this?
Some questions. Like, do you do the whole Brian Clough at Leeds thing for younger listeners? Football manager, famous, used to wear a green jumper, managed Nottingham Forest. Leeds United with a team that he went to for a very, very short period of time. Leeds, incredibly successful at that time. Brian Clough wanted to, in his eyes, win the league better than how Leeds did it because he felt they partook in some of the dark arts, we should say. Right? Don Revie, manager at Leeds at the time, didn't like the colour green, apparently, so he threw a green jumper into the bin. First day on the job, Brian Clough spots the green jumper in the bin, goes, what's that? Leeds go, that's Don Revie. Don didn't like green jumpers around here, didn't like colour green. Brian Clough put the green jumper on. That's day one in the job. And he's going, right, I wear green around here now. And Leeds United fans and players did not like him, and he lasted 40 days. So
it's sort of the equivalent of going into the prison and then just beating up the henchest dude there, or attempting to. Mark your dominance. I mean, maybe don't try that in the dressing room. It'll probably get you arrested. But you got to try and find that sort of equivalent thing of marking your territory on the team, because it's like I always try to make sure that my manager has some decent communication attributes. That way the players get on my side quickly, because I'm so used to going into a team talk, click, 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 click. Everything's green. Everyone's inspired. I am Winston Churchill. But then you'll start a new save. You go in there and it just says, seemed confused by feedback. And you're like, oh, yeah, you don't know who I am, do you? You have no idea. You don't know what's going on.
I am the best manager you will have. I'm a friend first, boss second, entertainer third. Like, come on, like, how can you not be part of this?
I can juggle.
Imagine if that was part of a team talk.
A bit of squad rotation, isn't it?
Yeah. Just introducing you. I would like to introduce you to your brand new manager. Have you got any words, Mr. Yellow Card? Yeah. Juggling? Juggling anyone? Juggling?
I'll eat fire.
And I will make the left back disappear. Right.
Well,
handkerchiefs out of your sleeve for ages.
The linesman's flags. Just.
Oh dear, we've gone down that. We've gone down that again, haven't we? Oh, so yeah. So you got that. Obviously, pitfalls in that sort of situation. Yeah, you know, trying to win the squad back, but opportunities to do it better.
Exactly. Just don't wear the green jumper.
Or do, either or.
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe it'll work better for you than Cloughy. And for our younger listeners, as you say, very famous man. He's the lesser famous Clough. Nigel Clough is the one you'll have heard of, the very famous Clough, obviously.
Brian Clough is the lesser famous Clough.
Oh, the younger listeners, Tony.
How many younger listeners know who Nigel Clough is?
Don't you remember that Burton Albion team?
God, our younger listeners going, oh, I'll tell you what, there's a legend, Nigel Clough. Hey, apparently his dad was meant to be quite good. Can you believe this? Look, younger listeners go, hey, there's a lad called Romeo Beckham. His dad's called what?
His brother's this crazy good photographer. Or chef.
There should be another universe, shouldn't there? Like, where we're sort of doing it this way. Sometimes it feels like when I talk about Football Manager that I'm in my own universe. Like, and there's younger people going, what on earth's he on about now? Like, I am 50 years into a save and everyone else is just loading it up going, Erling Haaland's good, isn't he? And I'm like, I wouldn't know.
I like it that way. Someone will say, what do you think of this player? And I'm like, who? Like, it could be a really well-known player. And I just don't know because I don't sign them. I manage in Malta. Who am I signing that you'll have heard of? I signed a left-back called Dick. He's the only real player we've got left for obvious reasons. But he's really good. Mm-hmm. But it just doesn't matter. I'm not going to be in a position to sign any of these players, and I don't want to because it's too easy to just know what they're going to be like. They've got a PA range, it's this and that, and it's only going to be within a small margin. Might even be permanently set. I like the idea of the pure. I don't know why I've gone all philosophical here. Like the beautiful caterpillar of the regen spawning into the wonderful butterfly whose CA and PA you just don't know. And I love the uncertainty of it. It makes it more of a challenge for me, but also it allows each player to create their own stories. Sorry to get all soppy, but that's the beautiful thing about FM for me. It's the stories created by the players that the game throws up and the things that happen intrinsically within that. That's what makes FM special for me anyway.
Absolutely. Butterflies are class, but you know what? So are caterpillars.
Yeah, man.
They're all right, aren't they? Yeah.
Moths are good too.
Oh yeah, I did. Speaking of this, actually, it's a bit weird to say.
Speaking of this,
no, like speaking of like sort of the famous FM players and wonder kids and stuff. I ended up on Talksport this week because obviously Barco has gone to Brighton,
yes,
and they rang and they said, "Oh, do you want to talk about this?" Because of course he's very famous in the Football Manager world. And I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not? Like I can probably blag my way around this one." And we were chatting away and we had a lovely time. And they went, "Oh, so have you signed Barco then?" I was like, "No, like I do like non-league saves. So the next time I come across him will be when he's 45 and I'm at Guiseley." Like, so,
and he's managing South Shields.
Yeah, I wouldn't be signing him. He'll be a physio or somewhere. Yeah,
that's how I engage with all the Wonder Kids. I signed them as a goalkeeping coach in 2046. Like,
yeah, basically what I've done is I've managed to convince him to be a recruitment consultant.
Imagine that a couple of years ago. Did you sign Erling Haaland? Yeah. He's a good sports physiotherapist. Like,
yeah,
that guy will rub your legs like nobody's business.
And Fatty is a loan manager and a half.
Good catering director too.
Spent a lot of time looking at those burger vans. Oh, I would love that. Okay, right. But comment below as well, by the way, for any wonder kid in an obscure staff career going forward. I think that'd be quite fun.
Doesn't have to be in the game.
No. Could be anywhere. Could be Asda.
Any role at the just an on-campus Asda at the city training ground.
Yeah. Garnacho works at Costa in a hospital somewhere. Possibly.
Lissandro Martinez is a hospital radio DJ.
Oh, that would be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
only plays early 2000 emo. That's the.
I'm totally down for it. I'd get hospitalized just to hear it.
And if you take anything from this episode, this is saying Yellow Card going, I'd get hospitalized for that.
I think there's always a threshold to which you'd get hospitalized for a thing, you know?
T-shirt found mine. And a half. Yeah, exactly. We found your level.
What's your hospitalization level?
Maximum level, 3 stars. Potential.
Save me a bed.
Oh man. I feel like again, I thought we'd gone too far with the flags out of the sleeve, but it turns out we had more tangents to go down. I think we should probably consider starting to wrap this up before we end up way off the beaten track.
Before we sink into the Marianas Trench of nonsense.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm happy to get on board and drive that car, right? But I
was born in the trench.
But I do feel as though there'll be some people listening going, I did like the Build a Nation bit. And then after that, I wasn't sure about the Nigel Clough chat. How dare you besmirch Nigel Clough?
Just sat there in a green jumper.
Yeah. I don't believe I can't believe they slagged off Nigel Clough and said he wasn't the most famous Clough. And then after that, there's a bit about caterpillars and hospital radio DJs, and it all probably makes sense when you listen back to it.
Yeah, if you tie all the cables together, it all links in perfectly.
Exactly. Like, I can't even.
Christopher Nolan movie.
Imagine trying to what if we did have any sort of link with this with FM. Imagine trying to. What you do is you plot this on the data hub, right? And all the passing marks are going, on track, on tangents. They're overloading on the tangent side, strangely.
The heat map's like a normal heat map, but then there's just these 4 random blocks that are just on the corner flags.
3 are in the car park. Yeah. Has that stadium got a volcano in the car park? No. That's just when they went off on one. Oh, fun. Second yellow card. A pleasure as always. If people want to find out more of your content, of your work, maybe they want to hear more of your theories on things or learn more about flags, where can people find you?
Well, I mean, if you haven't already been put off by every word that's come out of my mouth for the last hour, then you can find me on Twitch Tuesdays, Thursdays and Sundays on twitch.tv/second-yellow-card. You can find me on YouTube on the same URL. I haven't really put out much on YouTube for most of January because I'm working on a very, very big video project, which Tony knows all about because he's going to be in it. So stay tuned for that.
Excellent. So do, of course, go and follow Second Yellow Card. Make sure you watch all the content. Follow them on Twitter as well. Of course, there's going to be a link to everything below. And obviously, as I say, we'll get you back to tell us more about how the Build a Nation Save goes on in the future. Of course, if you want more FM show in your life, make sure you follow the social media, of course, which is the FM Show Pod on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all that sort of stuff. We have Discord, of course. Come and join that. Come and hang out, talk to us in there. We have a Patreon as well if you want some exclusive content. There's now a weekly exclusive Patreon episode every single Monday. You can join that from as little as £3 a month. Link, of course, in the description below. And I guess that's kind of it, really. If you've enjoyed it, please, of course, leave likes on the video if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe over there as well. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast from. Do let people know about it. If you see a clip, make sure you share it as well. I suppose we'll wrap it up there, because if we start talking again, who knows where it's going to end up next. Second Yellow Card, a pleasure as always. This, of course, has been episode 29 now of the FM show. I've been your host, Tony Jameson. Our guest has been Second Yellow Card. Take care of yourselves, everyone. Stay safe. We'll see you all next time.
Want to learn even more about Football Manager? Subscribe to the Patreon. Just visit patreon.com/thefmshowpod. Don't forget to rate and review, and follow along on the socials at the FM Show Pod.